come down. Those who are familiar with what's been going on the streets of Chicago, those who consider themselves part of O Block and Tuberville, and those who live in the different sets, West Side or South Side, we want to look at solutions that we can engage in and be very clear about these solutions. Now, I want to ask those who, I had asked before, you received word about job opportunities. Could you please stand up? For each person, can you please hand one of those to us? Those who receive information about job opportunities, Asada is going to get up and give you one of these sheets. I'm going to tell you why in a second. Those who were part of the Steve Harvey mentoring camp and you came back to visit us today. Where's Justin at, by the way? I want to make sure, we had another brother who was part of the camp about 4 years ago. He came. Those who received a phone call and you came because of a phone call, raise your hand. Those who received a phone call. Okay. Now, those that we're giving this to first and foremost, we're not leaving everybody out, but I want you to know that what you're reading is the first part of the process before we get into that electrical energy, that currency, and start dealing with some things, because we want you to know that this is going to come full circle. So as we're doing this, think about those that you know that need this, that should even be here. Because the next one we do will be at the A. Philip Randolph Museum next week. That's April 15th. April what? 15th. Over there on 104th in Maryland, right around the corner from Corliss High School. That's where we'll be. This is the 120, I think, 5th or 28th anniversary of A. Philip Randolph's, birth anniversary. But we're going to be there because we have to continue the organizing process of the reset, and we got to do this reset holistically. This is for human development. So please have a seat. And Asada, I want you to go around and just give one to everybody. We may not have enough, so we may have to have a couple people share, but we want you to have this in front of you as we're discussing this. Now, my brother to the right, Zach TV1, some of you all may have seen some stuff on the news regarding his CNN work on the streets, and those who have no problem showing you their weapons, their bullets, their ammo. They have no problem letting the world know that the decision, Philip, that I'm about to make is the decision to kill or be killed. That's the decision I'm about to make. However ill-informed it is, solutions. From your perspective, Brother Zach, all that you've been seeing and doing, what do you see as a decision that must be made that regards a solution for these young brothers and sisters on the street?
The lack of jobs within the city of Chicago, it plays a major role. I feel a lot of the youth turn to the streets for financial reasons, because it's just no jobs opportunities out there for these brothers, There's no recreational centers, no Boys and Girls Club, no additional crack centers, And when you do have, just say for example, a YMCA or crack center, it's very expensive for these guys to join, so they're left with no other choice but to stay out there on the streets and commit crime and do things of that nature in order to get cash, It's pretty sad. We need to create more opportunities, more job opportunities for the youth. That's my personal opinion. Brother, you not?
He wanted to talk. Okay. So, Brother Zarkeen, he wanted you to talk about your film a little bit.
I'm Shaquem Mathis. I'm going to give you a little bit of background information about me. I created this film because of my relationship with Yummy Sandifer. We used to hustle at the gas station right here on 95th, right here on 111th State Rosa. He was like, "Excuse me, miss, can I pump your gas?" No, you have any spare change, anything like that. What we would do, we would actually steal the gas. It's an old Franklin, whatever. He showed us how to steal the gas. I mean, y'all want to make some real money, let me show you how to do it. So we would steal the gas. We'd tell them like, "Listen, if you want to put a dollar in that pump, and I'll fill you up for the rest." So we would take the money, we would go to the station in Chicago, and we would buy pizza puffs and garros and come in the house with pizza puffs and garros. Family would be so happy. Because, that was our way of creating our own jobs. You know, that's one of the reasons that I got into film, because of my background. My background was so messed up. You know, by the time I turned 18, you know, I couldn't get a job or anything, and I didn't want to go back to doing some of the things that I was doing. You know, people was saying, like, man, you live an interesting lifestyle, man, you should tell your story. I'm like, you're right, I'm gonna tell my story. So the little money that I had, I invested in the cameras, laptops, and I started doing music videos. And that was around 2009, 2008 when the music video scene started to hop up, and Chief Keef and everybody, and the media just started to look at Chicago from a different perspective. And it was because of the young black guys who didn't want to do wrong. So we were like, man, God didn't give us opportunity, we're going to create our own jobs then. And that's exactly what we did. You know, and still to this day. You know, they look at us and I go into different platforms with white people or people in different prestige, and they'll look at us like, man, you can probably take my place. So no, I'm not going to give you any type of leverage. And I'm still putting up with that to this day. So I continue to do what I do from the ground up. You know, and one of the things that I think is a solution is doing things from the grassroots standpoint, from the ground up. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, I need a grant writer, I need this, I need a fund, I need an investment. It's going to be hard to do that, man, unless you got something to show, you know what I'm saying, that you're worth investing in, you know what I mean? That you actually put in the work and know exactly, you know, what to do with money if it's even given to you. So you definitely need to start from the ground up and make it work. You got an idea, I don't care if it's a mechanic, being an engineer, or creating whatever, create it from your point of view, from the ground up. Don't expect anybody to give you anything. You know what I mean? In my life, it always been like that. Nobody ever gave me nothing, so I'm stuck in this mode like, well, I just keep on doing it the way I've been doing it. You know, and I became so independent, and I think that's where a lot of black men ended up. We become so independent, like we like, well, government, big brother, what's that? We finna create and build our community the best way we know how, ourselves. You know what I mean? I know you see a lot of negative images of black guys and stuff like that, but there's so many of us out here that are doing so much more, and without us, our community would have been dead. You know, and we need to focus more on that. And that's why I think the energy needs to be more where we focus on our energy on, what we're listening to, how we treat ourselves, and how we treat each other. You know what I mean? Because society can pollute your energy. Your energy can pollute the person that's next to you. You know, and it can spread like a virus. So we definitely want to control our energy and bring more positivity into ourselves. Think better about yourself. Think better about the person that you sit next to. Think better even about the little crazy people that you see on the news, because there's some good out there. And I guarantee in life you're going to run into that. But you think about negative, niggas don't do this, niggas ain't that, black man ain't this, black woman ain't that. That's all your life and your universe is going to be about. You create your own universe. And that's one of the reasons that I made the Robert Yemi Sandifer story the way it is. I want to invoke the spiritual response. I want people to start focus more on themselves spiritually. Because people like that. A lot of people like that nowadays, like that's not something to look at. Look at your emotional, your material life, and you forget that you are a spirit. You know what I'm saying? You're an entity as well. And you definitely got to nurture your spirit as well. And we have to nurture each other. And one of the reasons that I did the movie was like that, because I want the kids and I want the people to look at the spiritual point of view, like, damn, he's actually showing the spiritual side. And even with our gang culture is so spiritual. Black Stones, gangster disciples, black disciples. You look at the gang literature, you know what I'm saying? If any one of you ever got involved in the gang life, and you was deep in enough where you had to study the literature and be involved in the literature, you will understand what I'm saying. Our gang culture is very spiritual. It wasn't nothing negative. You know what I'm saying? It was something that the powers of be seemed like, if these niggas actually show people what's going on, if we let them get out there more and educate them more about what they're trying to educate them about spirituality, it'll be dangerous. We gone. You know what I'm saying? Their powers are taken over. And that's why we're looked at such, being so negative, you know what I mean? Our gang coaches looked at being negative, you know what I mean? Our kids are embracing it the wrong way. And the best way to embrace our kids is through their culture, we show them the right way of what their culture was supposed to be about. And that's why I'm coming in tune with. And that's why I want to show people through these series, these Chicago Chronicles series, and tell different stories of people's lives from Chicago who have shaped the world point of view. And Mr. Yemi Sandifer is one of them. And Jeff Ward is one of them. And Larry Hoover is one of them. But let's take it from a different perspective. Let's not even focus on the drugs and stuff like you see in The Wire and those different TV shows. let's flip it, let's do it to a more spiritual response. Let's focus on spirituality more and see what the outcome will be. And people will realize the power of their thoughts, the power of their energy, the power of what you speak into your life and what you speak into existence. It all can come true, you know. And dealing with the ancient Kemetic Egyptian culture, they talked about that. Now we only deal with 6 senses nowadays. It's 360 senses. We're supposed to be able to communicate with the dead. We're supposed to have psychic abilities and stuff like that. That's what we need to get in tune with. That is very powerful. I mean, that's how I was able to survive. I used to try to destroy myself so much, living an outlaw life and doing so much to destroy myself. I didn't care anything about myself when I was 15 and 16. You know what I'm saying? That's why police used to look at me crazy, wouldn't stop me, anything like that. They don't care about nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I used to be like, nah, man, why don't you just get rid of me? Like, no, I'm not getting rid of you. I'm gonna make you suffer until you're tired. You know what I'm saying? I suffer so much, I'm like, you know what, man, this nigga's not trying to get rid of me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure I'm not dead yet. Like, what's going on? Like, man, I got a plan for you. I can't let you shut yourself yet, man. You finna do something that's gonna change everything else and everybody around you. And then that's the conclusion I've come with through my experience. You know, create jobs, you know what I'm saying? Create your opportunities. Don't even focus on the negativity. You know what I mean? Because in my world, I don't see the black man ain't this, the black woman ain't this. I don't even deal with that. All my stuff is good. I feel blessed. You know what I'm saying? I live a joyful life. I see it on the news and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, but it's a whole other world and dimension that I'm living in. Everybody else can live in. Create your own dimension, create your own universe, what you want it to be. You know, and that's my perspective. That's my solution.
All right. I want to try to link what Brother Shaquem said and link it with Brother Burkett.
Brother Zach here or Brother the decision maker?
Brother Shaquem and Brother Burkett.
Okay.
I want to try to link Black Survival in America. And the other book was by a German. And the book was titled, Who Needs the Negro? And they titled those books because as we get to the end of the 1960s and we get into the 1970s, what's changing? Technology. The manufacturing industries are going where? Overseas, right? So a young black male between the ages of 15 and 25, a young black male in the 1950s and 1960s in Chicago could get a job where? In the fitness right, in these plants, in factories. He could get a job. But by the time we get into those 70s and the 80s, where are those jobs? They're overseas, the jobs are gone, and then the urban areas, the inner city, becomes what? Look at that. Nothing, they leave in inner cities. But there's another industry that begins to grow in the 1970s on. The prison industry. Right? So you get factories leaving. Remember, these two books, The Choice, The Issue of Black Survival in America, they're talking about black folk can get into jobs in factories and work. You can work in a factory 20, 30 years. You can send your kids to college and all that good stuff. Right? You can have a high school diploma, and that's good. But now that those things are leaving, and America has a choice, well, in these rural areas where jobs are drying up too, how are we going to replace these jobs? One way to replace it is the prison industrial complex. Right? So since the 1970s, we've seen an exponential growth in the prison industry. Right? And it has to keep growing. Because there's so much money tied into that industry. Am I right or wrong? Right? So when we start seeing the changing in our neighborhoods, because people do talk about, now I do know, when people talk about the structure of these street organizations, they were different in the 70s than they are today. Is that right? That's true, Zach? That true? Right? So what happened to these neighborhoods? And Brother Lou, and this is not that kind of discussion, but we could go into this discussion, and Brother Reeve could go into this discussion. We can go into the discussion about what happened to black leadership in the 1960s. Right? Whether it was from street organizations, whether it was activist leadership, we can go into that kind of thing, what happened to these things, and what transformed it. So for me, when I start thinking about it, I'm going back to my student again. When I start thinking about it, you know, one of the things, a lot of the solutions that we have, or that we can have, are things that we just need to go back to the past and really learn from what these folks are doing, right? So when I start thinking about it, and I'm going to our brother Lou, and it's part of his history. Lou, you will remember SNCC, right? Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, right? Who was the woman who inspired students to join organize Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee? Ella Baker. Right? Ella Baker. But then, not yet. But what was it about Ella Baker that we need to know?
The fact that wherever she went to, she organized. She had students learn the technique of grassroots organizing. Every community that they went to, they taught that to the communities they went to, so they can learn organizing themselves. It's basically teaching them how to be activists and organize, and teaching they learn to go to those other communities and teach other communities the same thing.
Now he gets it. So the key thing for me is, one of the things that we're missing, when we get into the 1970s, our value system becomes, since we can go to other places now, rather than continue to build and go to our community, our value system is, we're going to go to, now we can go to other places, right? Now we can live other places, right? The decision making this brother was talking about. We have decisions to make. Now that we can go other places, now that we can live other places, we leave our neighborhoods, right? And our neighborhoods become blighted. There's nothing there. There's a failure of leadership. People are being locked up, and there's a void, right? So for me, when I think about the solution, it's really going back to what Ella Baker said. It's going back to what people in SNCC did. It's grounding ourselves in our communities, with the people in our community, not for one day, but for every day, right? Grounding ourselves in those communities, right? And helping support these young men and these young women.
Now, I just want to freeze frame what he just said. The reason why I don't use the C word, what's the C word I said? Only is because when you don't have the operation of a functional community and it's missing those elements, then you have to be honest and make a decision on what the real term is. Triage and trauma center fix our neighborhoods better most times than community because of how you see it function, how you see it do what it do. So everybody, everything that you're doing live, make sure you put the reset tag on there, but I have to ask you to stop filming right now. I'll hit stop or finish, let it post, but no more filming for this particular comment that's about to be made. No filming, please. So don't be sneaky and keep filming. Stop filming. My brother, what's going up? My brother is from the juvenile justice system, and he's someone that has a lot of insight into the inner workings of not only what's going on, but he was privy to what was going on even with Yummy on some very sensitive levels. Briefly, what's going on. He does not want to be filmed in saying this, so please respect the right for him not to be filmed in him saying this.
Just call me Mr. Little, because that's how all the children know me. Just call me Mr. Little. Big, small, when you come to me. Applause I need. I'm just a comma. And I don't do well with a whole lot of accolades, because I'm not one that really want accolades. My young brother, you see him say, be confident in who you are. Hey, we kindred spirits. I took a long time working on the inside of me. I'm 55 years of age. I took a long time working on the inside of me. I'm from the city of Chicago, born and bred. Shoot basketball at the Golden Dome. But I was born on 18th and Kedzie, down the street from the Bucket of Blood. Y'all don't know what the Bucket of Blood is. Okay. Then I moved to the south side of the city of Chicago, 67th and Lafayette. My father died when I was young. He was my best friend.
For the young ones, if it's your turn to talk, I don't want you to start talking like this. I need you to speak up, okay? So, my name is Brother Enoch Muhammad. I I am a co-founder of Hip Hop Detox. I'm an empowerment specialist. I'm one of those who they bring into schools and programs and even companies where stuff gets hot, stuff gets thick, they want an intervention, they bring me in, Detox. Now, before we get started with our dialogue, dia, law, just a flow of meaning, D-I-A, dia, law, logos, flow of meaning. We can't have a flow of meaning without making sure that we do a couple of prerequisite things. My brother, can you open that door and do me a favor? Can you announce to everybody outside if they are not on a post, a position, or an important activity, can they please come in before we get started? We want to get started the right way. Okay. All those that are sitting here that received a phone call to be here, please raise your hand. You received a phone call to be here. Okay? All those who received a phone call, did you receive a phone call that alerted you that the mentoring partner of the Steve Harvey Foundation, Hip Hop Detox, doing an event here? Who all received that message? One, okay, two. Who all received a message that gave information regarding job opportunities and cash flow accumulation and those things that's going to happen? Excellent. Okay, you got three. Okay. How many of you all received information from the service organization from AT&T called the Social Network? Raise your hand. We're all part of the Social Network. Excellent. How many of you all saw the information on Facebook? Excellent. Now, to those who are just coming in, the rule is the first three rows. Anything out there, you're out of bounds. So please come to the first three rows. So my brother here, anybody come on down, because we're doing a principle and we're taking the time to actualize the principle. We can't have a village if we don't recognize that we have to have relations with each other. How you gonna have a neighborhood if you don't have friendly relations among neighbors? Neighborly relations are critical. That's one of the reasons why I stopped using the C word. You know what the C word is? The C word is community. I stopped using that word so much because it's fallacious to use a word, and when you look at what it takes to have a functional community, we don't have it, then it's fallacious for me to use that term. Trauma center in most of our neighborhoods would be a better term to use. People say that's kind of harsh. Those who just watched the Yummy Sandifer story, raise your hand if you just watched the movie. Did that seem more like a community or more like a trauma center?
Trauma and squatters.
Trauma and squatters. So if we don't come from a trauma-informed perspective in whatever we do, we're fooling ourselves. I'm going to say it again. If we do not come from a trauma-informed perspective, that's like saying Derrick Rose just hurt his knee again, right? Was it his meniscus again? So it would be unfair for Phil Jackson to say, get on that court and play. That would be unjust, wouldn't it? Because what would happen if he did that? He'd break his other knee. He would be even more hurt because he's already experiencing pain and trauma and hurt. So he has to have time to do what? Heal. Heal. Let's say that word again. Time to do what? Heal. Time to do what? Heal. So everybody who's standing up, who's sitting down with the shirt that reads reset, please stand up. Those who got the shirt that reads reset, please stand up. Now, they have on those shirts not because this is a nice shirt, it is a nice shirt, but they're wearing that shirt because when you don't have time to reset yourself, to think about what you're going to do, why you're going to do, how you're going to do, if you don't have a chance to do that, that means that we're reacting instead of responding. That means that we're not calculating, strategizing, and making a healthy decision. Now, I'm saying this in the context of not only the Yummy Sandifer, but the fact that not only do we have our brothers and sisters from AT&T service organization here, please give them a hand, y'all. We want to make sure that everybody understands that when we say it takes a village, that means it takes all of us to make that a reality. There is no village if there's no us. I heard it said by a wise sister one time. Her name is Barbara Sizemore. She's an elder. She said one time, she made a profound statement that whenever you're dealing with us as a people, you have to be willing to look at problem, cause, solution, implementation, and have that model of problem, cause, solution, implementation, but you don't stay put in problem, cause mode. You got to get to solution, implementation. That means you got to make a decision. There must be a decision made. And most times, when we get into these settings, we have forums, we have town halls, it becomes a thing where we're very verbose, but we avoid going into the valley of decision. Today, we're going into the valley of decision. That's what we're about to spend time in. Now, I'm about to do something that usually you didn't have done in a setting like this. But I think it's the perfect setting to do this. My brother Reverend Fellows will say, if you don't have an argument in the meeting, you really ain't had a damn meeting. Because when you do work mathematically is force times distance. Mathematically. That's why young people look it up. The formula for work. And anytime you do work, there's going to be friction. Everybody take your right hand, put it on your left, rub it slowly. A little bit fast. A little bit fast. A little bit fast. What do you feel? Heat. And that's called what? Friction. Now stop. If you're not producing friction, there's no irritation going on, we're not really doing no work. Because we're not getting past our comfort zone. If you're comfortable in injustice, your ass is unjust yourself. If you're comfortable seeing this crap go on for the last, I don't want to say 20 years, because my professor would correct me, brother, it's going on for a long time. 1974, the largest on record, they say, murders since legalized slavery. I'm going to preface what I'm saying. 1974, City of Chicago had 970 murders, homicides. We don't know how many shootings they had because they weren't using the number of shootings to sensationalize fear to the people. At that time, that's right. So, what we want to do is get to solutions and implementation. In saying that, we have a brother in the back. The only reason why he's in the back is because he's filming, but I want my brother to come to the front as soon as he can. You can set it up because he's on the streets and he is one of those CNN representatives that don't get paid from the corporations, but he's on the block. He's seeing the trauma firsthand and recording it. And there's some controversy in it because he's recording what is. But as we have this dialogue, I'm prefacing us just to say this. Every person you see that looks like one of us, and we have a weapon in our hands, but it was made in Israel, it was made in Russia, it was made in China, how the hell did they get the weapons? Every person that looks like us that have a bullet costs 18 cents, sometimes 25 cents per unit. Where they get the bullet from? Somebody said to me recently, I bet you if they put a price tag of $500 per bullet, we'll get a whole bunch of shooting. But if you make it so easy to buy it, and so accessible to people, then you're shooting everywhere because it's easy to get it, because life is not of high value. So I close this portion of this introduction saying this. This past Tuesday was the 49th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. This past Tuesday was the 49th anniversary of Dr. King. This past Tuesday, April 4th. The brother was assassinated in 1960 what? 1960 what? It was 1968. It was 68. I'm just checking to make sure who knows that particular date, because we know a lot of dates. You know, when have and have not coming back on for that season open. We know that type of date. When is Empire and Power coming back on? We know those kind of dates. Oh yeah, you'll get uncomfortable today. Because if we don't, you think it's hot now. Oh, it's going to be much worse. And we can't wait to have a whole bunch of people to come and say, we willing to be part of our own salvation, our own transformation. We can't wait for that. We have to be part of it. And that's why I'm so thankful for you all being here. Tuesday, April 4th, on the south side and the west side of Chicago, no fanfare. We didn't want no media. We didn't want the alternative facts people. We didn't want none of them to come. We wanted us to come to have a gathering where we apologize to our children. And we communicated certain things to them and with them that we're looking to take sustained action on.
So when we give some of you all the apology, and I say some, because we want you to have the job to make copies, to pass it along, to have communication and dialogue about it, because if the adults don't make a decision, see, we're supposed to be grown, so the children are not going to make certain decisions. The teenagers are not going to make certain decisions. Science says the brain is not fully functional until 20 what? 25. So they're not going to make certain decisions, but we have to be the ones willing to make certain decisions. So when we give you the apology, it's not just some words. See, this is bigger than just looking at the economy on one level. The first economy we have is our time and our energy. That's the first economy we have. It's our time and our what? I'm sorry, I'm hip-hop, so I like call and response. Time and what? Time and what? Time and what? Everybody in here has 168. 168 hours.
Who we are and where we came from. He put this together because he knew the brother that was really the star of the show, who's now in another world. And for you having the integrity to do it for our community, we owe you a lot. And I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the mothers, fathers, the children who will see your work and use it as an inspiration to you. And we're going to come back, and I'm going to kind of be brief, but let me put this in some kind of perspective. How I learned about young Sandifer. And I was actually in Africa. And I was in a place called Cairo, Egypt. I happened to be in a hotel watching CNN. Because y'all know the CNN goes to Africa. And the first time I saw the shooting of youngin, I was sitting in a hotel in Cairo. And they were broadcasting what was happening in Egypt. Right? They were broadcasting that all over Africa. So youngin Sandifer does not just belong to us. He's a figure in the world. So you may not have known that because his story was seen in Egypt, his story was seen in Accra, Ghana, his story was seen in South Africa. So what we thought was a Chicago phenomenon was really a world phenomenon. So you need to know you are just validating what CNN did that day in Cairo, Egypt. Putting his story, the difference is people in Egypt and in Africa didn't know young. And that's why we owe you so much thanks, because you introduced him to the world. Then, see that we'll come back. I just want to start the discussion today as a professor. Now, I certainly want to thank Enoch Muhammad, and I want to thank the people who put this program together, because I think it is worthy of having a discussion, and I'm excited to see young folk here, because there's so much to learn. But let me be the professor and go to the solution. And, you know, we live in Chicago, so we don't need to argue about whether there's a violence problem, do we?
No.
We don't need to argue about whether we kill each other, are we? We don't need to argue about gang violence. We know that they have one, gangs. We don't need to argue about any of that. My role today, and Professor Kelly Harris's role today, is to talk about what can we do to solve the problem. Let me throw this out, and I'm going to sit down. I do not believe that the police department is the first line of defense for the African American community. I understand that in some of the police, because most of you, other than your friend's phone number, the only number you know is 911. And so sometimes they're enemies and sometimes they're friends, but at the end of the day, the police department does not have the principal responsibility of protecting you in your neighborhood, or protecting me in my community. They ain't. So I'm going to be provocative and tell you, if you think 911 is an answer to the young Sandifer problem, then I got a shrink, a psychiatrist you ought to visit very soon. Because you're so far off the base until it should be an insult to yourself. Let me go to the next step. The reason why the police are not the first response to what is happening to us is because we are the first response. The community that is suffering from the death of young Sandifer, the people who live in our neighborhoods. I stay on the west side at Garfield Park. After 6 o'clock, I go into my house. Now, I'm not mad at them because I'm an academician and I've studied this problem. I'm saying if you don't have a knowledge of who you are in our community, if you don't have a knowledge of yourself, then you will always think somebody else has the responsibility of taking care of you. Ain't that the plantation mentality? I don't have to do nothing but work for the plantation owner. I don't have to take any social responsibility. I don't have to take any political responsibility. I don't have to take any responsibility for being self-determined and economically free. I can always depend on my enemy to be my savior. Point number one is, look, we are our own saviors. Part of our problem is we don't know who we are. We don't understand. Most of us, if I asked you where you're from, you would probably tell me, well, I grew up in the Robert Taylor homes. I grew up in our Hill Garden. I grew up on the west side. I grew up wearing my hat to the right or the left or in the opposite direction. That's who I am. I even see some black leaders sometimes identify themselves by the side of town they live on. And I want to tell them so bad sometimes, you are a citizen of the world, not your goddamn neighborhood. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand who you are. Who you actually are. And if you don't understand who you are, then you'll always depend on your enemy and somebody else to defend your right to exist. So the real challenge today is what can we do from a community perspective to deal with the problem, obviously, that is a worldwide news story. And I say that because I was in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. I was in a shoe shop, and the man asked me where I was from. I said, I'm from Chicago. He went off on me for an hour about the violence in Chicago. And so let me tell you something. Today, Chicago owes itself. You owe yourself, you owe the world, you owe our community a commitment to go out into your neighborhoods and address this problem. Now I'm going to end with this. If you're afraid to deal with the people who are killing you, then you are a coward. Don't come to me. Or don't go to your church or to your pastor. Don't go out into your neighborhood. If you ain't afraid to confront the people who are destroying your neighborhood and who's making us scared to come out of our houses, then you don't have a fit and a right to be in that community in the first place. If they're raping your daughters, killing your sons, killing your babies, killing your youth, and you still think 911 is the answer, then there's a systemic problem. Not just in the community in which you live, there's a problem with you because you don't know who you are. You were born to be a warrior. All of us are going to go out of here sooner or later, one way or the other. Whether it's through Gatling and AR-Lee, or whether, however you want to do it, you're going to go out of here. The question of it is, what are you prepared to do right today? And I end on this. In your neighborhood, in your community, dealing with the people who are bringing the trauma to that neighborhood and that, what are you prepared to do about them? Are you prepared to organize block to block, church to church, school to school? Or are you prepared to watch it on CNN and Channel 7 and Channel 5 and be comfortable in knowing that you're upset about it's happening, but you don't have the courage, the fortitude, and the integrity to get out in the neighborhood that you live in and make a difference?